Hello everyone, welcome back to another stream on Fancy Football Scout. Today as usual I'm joined by Gianni Battici, and today we're going to go through my free hit 4 team and have a general discussion. Now interestingly enough, I've not told Gianni this, but we're actually going to create the draft on stream live because maybe I feel like with the amount of time we have we can discuss players and bring you through some of our thought process while picking these players. So that's going to be a fun addition to our episode. Do, as usual, let us know if you can hear and see us okay. We've always have our technical issues, so let us know. But, Gianni, how are we keeping?
Yeah, man, really well. Good to be here. Hi to everyone watching. Hope you're enjoying the international break. I'm not sure too many are. Weekends without FPL aren't the same, are they? But yeah, excited to be back for game week 4. I just wish we had a good 5-6 game weeks before a break. Having 3 and then a break is just rubbish. But here we are. And yeah, there's loads of chips in play, mate. I mean, you're going to be on free hit, but it's 25% of engaged managers on X when I polled them are on wildcard. So between the free hitters and the wildcarders, it's going to be like, if you're not on a chip, you'll be very happy with the grey arrow this week.
Yeah, I think so. It's going to be hopefully a good week. Again, thank you for letting me know how the audio is good. Good to see CH, Header, FPL Stinky, Frode. I hope we're well and enjoying the international break. I myself, quite bored of it now. I've made countless drafts to the point where, I don't even know where my head is at on these drafts because I've made so many, which is usually not great because I usually know where my head is at. But I do have a set template that I do keep going to, and it'll make for good discussion doing it on stream. So Gianni, will we get straight into making the team, and we'll at the end I'll talk about where my percentage is at with players.
Sweet, sounds good. I am going to move my mic closer because someone said my sound's too low. So let me know in the chat if that's all right. But yeah, I'm. Are you 100% gonna free hit? My first question for you.
Yeah, so I have. By the way, this is my current game week 4 team. If I don't free hit, am I going to free it? So I've activated the button, but I've actually not made any transfers, so I can still stop it. I believe that's how it works. But yeah, I am. I mean, if you look at my team in front of you, this is what it consists of. And yes, we're using FPL team, by the way, for anyone that's wondering, because the GUI is much better than the actual website for fantasy football. So in front of you, I've got my team for game week 4 without a wildcard. First thing to note, I mean, what is that? 10 away fixtures. 2 being City, 2 being Arsenal. And maybe if you consider Everton away for Villa, quite tough. It's not looking great for my game week 4 team, and again we discussed last Sunday where my head was at with that, and I feel like this could be a week where a lot of points could be made up with big fixtures for the likes of Liverpool with Burnley, and of course Palace with Sunderland. So I would say I'm 99% free hit.
Nice. I think I like that for your team. I also think this team looks good again in game week 5, so I get it. Like, again, all these away fixtures are then most of them will be home fixtures for game week 5, and you'll have like Nottingham Forest with a great fixture against Burnley, for example. Yeah, I think you're making the right call here, mate. There will be a couple of players in this 11 that you're probably not considering on free hit. I don't know, Ollie Watkins would be a good example of that could punish you, but that's the nature of free hit this season. In single game weeks, we're all free hitting in single game weeks. There's always the risk of your current team doing really well because this is a game of high variance and that just happens. But I think this is the right call for this team, man.
Yeah, absolutely, and good from you to bring up that point, because let me show you what the team looks like. Again, I've briefly talked about my chip strategy. So game week 4 free hit, game week 6 triple captain on Haaland versus Burnley, and game week 8 wildcard. But let me show you my team for game week 5 before we actually go creating the free hit team, because I think you'll understand where I'm coming from and why I'm so eager to free hit in 4. Now in game week 3 I brought in Morgan Rogers and Brian Mbeumo. Again, Brian Mbeumo, great transfer. Morgan Rogers doesn't look so good yet, but the reason I done that is because it sets me up very nicely. So in game week 5, again, I brought in Rodgers and Mbeumo. Chelsea at home for Mbeumo and Sunderland away for Rodgers. Not bad, not great. But in general, very nice fixtures for the guys like Forest, who play against Burnley, which I've got a double up on. Villa, which I've also got a double up on. And even Spurs with Brighton. So that's quite nice game week 5. Game week 6 is where it gets really nice. Forest play double Sunderland. Mbeumo plays his own team, Brentford. And Haaland has Burnley at home. Rodgers and Watkins, Fulham at home, which I do fancy. And in
Yeah.
game week 7, which is probably my best game week, double Sunderland with Embuemo and Fernandez. Double Burnley at home, Watkins and Rogers. Erling Haaland with Brentford away. Spurs double up with Leeds. And three free transfers come this point with some money to work around with. I feel like I've put my team in a great position fixture wise. Again, it's never going to be ideal. There's going to be a lot of players which I don't have. But for this time frame which I've set, I feel like I'm being really aggressive, and that's the type of manager I am. Try to pick up as many points as I can as soon as I can, while there's going to be a lot of variance, and own a few players like Mbuemo or like a double up on United, and even the double Villa boys who've not done so well, but pick up a lot of points that maybe from a lot of players a lot of people don't have. So and then, like I said, in game week 8 potentially wildcard as the team doesn't look so good. But yeah, that's my initial plan. And Gianni, in game week 4, I think it's right for my team. Like you said, like free hit is definitely best play for me. And on that note, let's get building it. So one of the first things I like to do, Gianni, is the structure. Now we can talk about 6 million assets, 7 million assets, 8.5s, but for me it goes down to 2, especially if you're on free hit. Do you want both Haaland and Salah, or are you going either? Now Salah plays against Burnley, so it's no doubt we're going Salah. For me, this is where my head's at, and I think this is a good discussion to have while we're making this team. Is for me, I feel like you have to have Haaland versus United at home. This is a great fixture for City, and also City not so good in recent weeks, even though we've only had 3 game weeks. But United have equally been as poor, and I think City could slot a few past United, especially at home. What's your take on that? And do you understand where I'm coming from?
Mate, I think you have to have both. I think it's a no-brainer, especially part of the reason you're free hitting. It might only be a very small part, but the fact at the back of your mind somewhere, it's I don't have Mo Salah and he's about to play Burnley. So for you, it's a no-brainer that Salah has to come into a free hit. And then I like Haaland versus Man United. I think that's a good fixture for him. And again, he's one in your current team that could punish you. So I'm sure you'll want to protect that. And Haaland and Salah, if I'm on free hit, I'm picking them both. If I'm on wildcard, I think I'm picking them both. I think I'd wildcard them both in as well. Like I think that's the structure. And I think there's enough good defenders. And I think there's enough good budget midfielders this year where actually Haaland Salah drafts on wildcard and free hit. It works.
Okay, perfect. So let's stick in Salah and Haaland on our free hit draft. Again, that's the first move we've made. I've just taken out Bruno because he's the most expensive midfielder that is in front of you.
Are
Where
you
should we
set on
go?
that, Chai? Let me just get your takes. This is like, are you, what percentage are you on the fact those two are in this 11? Are you only making free hit teams with them both, or are you experimenting with either? Because I'd only make them with both, but I don't know where you're at.
Yeah, I've not made a draft without both. And
Yeah.
I've been on thinking about this for a while now since game week 3. So I think I'm fairly set on both Salah and Haaland. It's more so that the budget kind of options I'm going for because I'm going with both, and it does make it quite tricky. But I feel like if you can just nail that first or second differential, was going to be a bit cheaper, you could be flying. But yeah, I'm fairly sure I'm going to. And again, the captaincy armband will be on Salah because this will be the one week I can own him. And I feel like this will be a week that both players will do well, and not many people, if any, will have both. So it'll be good to pick up some points. Okay, let's move on from both Salah and Haaland because I feel like that is the biggest talking point for me. Second is, who's your second and third Liverpool asset going ahead to Burnley?
Ah, I I feel like you have to swerve Isak because I just don't see a world in which he starts. I think he probably gets 30 minutes. But with that in mind, do you swerve Ekatike? Maybe you do. Do you know what? I'd be very tempted on Wirtz as my second attacker or Gakpo, but it would be one of the two. And then I'd be like, okay, let's just play safe and go for a Van Dijk as well. Like Eamon in the chat says he's going Ekatike and Van Dijk, and that's fine too. Ekatike, just prepare for not getting 90, but maybe you don't need 90. Like Ekatike is a very fun option for game week 4. I feel like by game week 5, like it's Everton for Liverpool. Maybe that's when Isak comes in and starts, but didn't start for Sweden last night. Didn't get any minutes for Sweden. I just think it's perhaps a little bit too bold to go for Isak. Where are you at with the other Liverpool attackers?
Yeah, I don't know if this is me overthinking, but since Isak has come in the door, I'm starting to get the feeling that I do think he's going to get 30 minutes off the bench. I'd be
Yeah.
surprised if he doesn't, especially against Burnley. So going with a Gakpo or an Ekitike is kind of put me off, if I'm being honest. I do think the best two in going forward in terms of attacking option is Salah and then Verts. And I've even made drafts with just one Liverpool attacker and double defence because, Liverpool are probably going to be all over Burnley and they're going to get quite a lot of set pieces. And it only takes one attack in return for a nice little haul from a Liverpool defender. So I actually quite like their defenders as an option. But yeah, for me, I do think that the likes of a Gakpo and a Ekitike are probably capped at about 75 minutes again. In my own mind, that's probably not how it's going to play out. But just with the signing of Isaac, I think it's likely. And Salah is the one you can hang your hat on and be sure he's going to play 90. Again, famous last words. But again, you can only assume, and everyone's going to captain him anyway. So for me, if I were to rank him, Salah, Verts, probably Gakpo ahead of Ekitike with Isaac coming in.
I think I agree. I think I'd rank them the same. I guess the one question is, do you have to have triple Liverpool for Burnley? And I think you do. I think you've got to target that fixture. My slight problem with it is in a draft where you've got Salah and Haaland, you can't have too many sort of mid to upper price players that are in, say, the Wirtz price point or premium defenders in the Van Dijk price point. So something might have to give, and that might mean you go Gakpo instead of Wirtz and you save the million, for example. And I don't mind that at all. Depends how tight your budget's going to be at the end. But it's Salah, Van Dijk, and then that third one is budget dependent. It might be an extra defender. It might be a Gakpo. It might be Wirtz if you do have the money, but I don't know if you do. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point. So we can come back to slotting the Liverpool options. What I think is interesting about that is you said automatically Van Dijk. Do you think it's as obvious as going with Van Dijk? Now, on free hit, in a week where you're trying to pick up as much variance as possible, can you understand going with a Kirkes over a Van Dijk? Or do you think the DEFCON, even with Burnley away, is just too good? And Van Dijk, of course, is a great attacking threat.
Yeah, he's been brilliant for DEFCON so far. He's the only premium defender that does get DEFCON, and the first 3 weeks show us that. Small sample size, albeit. Kirkes doesn't. I don't feel like Kirkes is going to get many attacking returns in this Liverpool system. I don't know. Like he gets forward-ish, but I just expect whoever's playing on the right side, if that's Frimpong, he's going to be more advanced than Kirkes always. But if it's not Frimpong, we still Szoboszlai play there, and if Frimpong's still out, it'll be Szoboszlai. Sort of will invert and often be higher than Kirkes too. So I would be going Van Dijk, and I just feel the threat from set pieces for Liverpool. You have the goal threat of Van Dijk. You have the bonus potential. Interesting observation with bonus, by the way. He's without Frimpong. If Liverpool keep a clean sheet, it will be Van Dijk. When a team keeps a clean sheet, you look along their back four and go, oh, they're all going to get a massive bump in the bonus point system. Because Szoboszlai is a midfielder and he'll be playing right back, like you're not competing for clean sheet bonus boost with him. So it's one fewer defenders, either right back, to compete with for Van Dijk. So if they keep a clean sheet, he'll mop up in the BPS. He probably will be close to DEFCON. Just feels like a really, really high floor this week for Van Dijk.
Yeah, I quite like it. I can understand that. Again, like I said, me thinking of Milo Kirkes is from the likes of Azuri and Timber, who can get a massive haul and no one owns them. So it's just in that thought process. But yeah, Van Dijk is definitely the obvious one. So we have 4.5 million to come up, like you said, with Salah and Haaland in, and we'll come back to whether or not we go to Gakpo or Verts if we can get there. To make up some funds, let's go to the next biggest team for this singular game week, in my opinion, which is Crystal Palace. Now, Mateta I feel is a no-brainer, so I'm going to slot him in right now, and that'll make up 1.5 million automatically. Next would have been Sarr, but he's injured. But for me, the two Palace defenders are where my head is at, Gianni. I love the double up of Daniel Munoz, who I think will be probably the best option this season as a defender. But also Lecree, who I think for DEFCON, even in a game like this, could be brilliant.
Yeah, man, absolutely. You go double defense. Sunderland have got the lowest open play XG so far this season from all 20 teams. Palace are solid. Without Sam, without Eze, you might just see a little bit more of a sort of defense first approach from Palace. Do you know, I'd actually say my number one pick for Palace is Munoz, then Mateta. But yeah, double defense. Lacroix's got goal threat. He's great for DEFCON. Those three might, do you know, the Sarr injury could even be a blessing in disguise here. If Palace go and win 1-0 and your defenders both get sort of 7+ points, you're laughing.
Yeah, I agree. I think the double up is very, very nice. And Mateta, no brainer for me, Gianni. Like you said, I feel like maybe a blessing in disguise with Sarr being gone. I wonder how this game will look for Lacredo in terms of DEFCON. Is it a case where easy fixture, he gets not a sniff of DEFCON, or is it going to be one of those where he's still all over the place? And I think that would be very telling going forward for an asset like him, because in bigger games you can almost guarantee he's getting DEFCON, it seems, at this rate anyway, so far from what we've seen. But yeah, Daniel Munoz, I think he's just constantly in areas where he's so advanced and always has a good cross. So yeah, probably the best Palace asset. I agree. So we've slotted those three assets in, and I feel like that's where I'll be going almost no matter what, I mean, unless we get some more information about certain things. Next, Gianni, what I want to ask you about is the goalkeeper position. So we don't plan on using any Liverpool as our goalkeeper position, nor Palace. Where does that leave us? We've got nice fixtures for the likes of Newcastle with Wolves at home. Do we fancy a Nick Pope?
Yeah, I don't mind that. Is he 5 million, Pope? I wonder if this is a 4.5 keeper spot, but just because it's a way of saving 500,000 and money's going to be tight at some point. So I think I looked at fixtures like Fulham. Who have Fulham got at home? Fulham have got a good fixture, haven't they? I
Leeds at
think,
home, but Leno's also 5 million.
is Leno
Yeah.
5? Don't know why in my head I had Leno at 4.5. I guess he was last year. Are there any other 4.5 guys you fancy with a good fixture? If not, then yeah, I like Pope.
So let me quickly pull up the fixtures so we can get a grasp. The only other one I think I fancy other than Pope is Raya, Nottingham Forest at home, which I don't think is perfect, but definitely a great option for sure.
I don't mind that, but it's 6 million. That is a lot more money, isn't it? That's six. Was it five? No, it's 5.5. But you got to find the
5.5, yeah.
0.5 possibly.
Yeah. So unless you want to go for Quaveen Keller for some save points versus Chelsea, I don't think I fancy anyone else. Um,
No.
so yeah, for the time being, let's stick in Nick Pope on in between the sticks. So we've got the back three and the goalkeeper done. Mo Salah and Haaland in with Jean-Philippe Mateta. Kudus, I don't mind for 6.5 million. We've 3.1 to make up, and we've got Brian Mbuemo who needs to go. Let's go straight to that Mbuemo position, Gianni. Again, we'll have to alter this team because we'll need to make up some funds. But who do you fancy this game week in midfield if you're not going with a Liverpool option? For me, again, Newcastle option potentially on the table. One that I think of is Johan Wissa up top.
Yeah.
But how do you feel on his minutes first off? And is there anyone that would spike your interest?
Yeah, mate. Vissa from the off, I think is a brilliant shout. Like they're gonna put in one of their new number nines. Do you put the guy that got massive amount, like what, nearly 20 goals last season for Brentford, that knows the Premier League really well, that's got the experience to deal with the occasion? Or do you put in the new signing from Stuttgart who comes with a great reputation? He's going to be amazing, but he needs to be integrated into the league, the environment. Like, I would be very surprised if Vista doesn't start that football match and play close to 90. Like he's gonna be a great shout for those on free hit. That is one of your absolute wins of a free hit this week. You get to pick a Vissa. If you're on wildcard, I don't know if you pick a Vissa. For your normal transfer this week, I don't know if you pick a Vissa. Because we don't know long term, there could be rotation and minute share with number nine. But for this week here and now, I think he can come straight in. If you want to go Newcastle attacker and not risk the number nine, though, Harvey Barnes and Alanga are both really good picks as well. You know they're going to play in the wide forward roles, and you know they're going to be close to 90-minute men. So I actually like Newcastle attack very much for this one. You could even argue you go Visser and Barnes or Visser and Alanga.
Yeah, so a lot of the chat saying Josh King for Fulham. I love that. I think as a bench option on a free hit in case someone gets injured, not bad at all. Would I have him starting? Unsure, but he does make a nice. He does free up a nice bit of funds of only 2.6 to make up now, Gianni. With Wissa in the team, I do like what you say though. With a double up against Wolves, I feel like there's goals in this game for sure. So does that mean knocking down a Rodgers to potentially a Barnes, or is it Mohamed Kudus to make way? And how are we going to make up these 2.6 million in funds?
Yeah, I mean, I put Josh King in my free hit 11 because I felt like I needed an attacker at 4.5 million just to do what I wanted to do with the rest of the squad. Now, Josh King is not going to be a starter for Fulham, I don't think, in a month or two, right? They've just bought 2 more wide forwards, and Josh King's been playing 10 very well, but Smith Rowe is going to take that spot eventually, you would think. Smith Rowe's still the club record signing, I think. Like, Josh King's one for the future, and he's going to be a big part of what Fulham do this year. Is he guaranteed to be starting in 4 or 5 weeks' time? Absolutely not. Should he start in game week 4 after a really good game week 3? Yeah. So I think I would risk King in my 11. And again, he'll come off at 65, 70 minutes because he does every game anyway. But that's how you can make money up, I guess. You just have to start a 4.5, or you find a 5 million midfielder that could get DEFCON, and you start a Tyler Adams or a Dewsbury Hall, whatever. But I think, yeah, you're going to need one budget guy. No way a Smith Rowe gets a start, Gianni, says David. Have you watched Josh King? David, please listen to the perspective. I didn't say he was at risk of game week 4. I know we're very precious Fulham fans. Josh King's going to be amazing. Smith Rowe has not been bought, or is not just going to be on the edges all season. Like, Smith Rowe is going to be given opportunity back in the 11, and he's looked good when he's come off the bench. Also, with their extra wide forwards, that will affect Dewsbury, that will affect King minutes, despite that not being his position. I.e., you might see Iwobi have his place taken on the left, and Iwobi plays number 10 at times. Like, they've spent big money on 2 wide forwards. One's Chukwueze has come in with like I think an obligation to buy at like 35 million, and Kevin, I think off the top of my head, also was like 30 odd mil. Like, it's big money for Fulham, and they're going to be a part of the squad.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Josh King slots in very nicely into this team, brings us up to exactly zero point 0 in the bank, and we've got an absolutely amazing team. Again, do minutes worry you with the likes of a Baron, Wissa? I feel like the new striker is going to take minutes off Wissa. I don't think Wissa's getting 90 for me, Gianni. That's just personally. Barnes is not notoriously known for getting 90 either with his injury record. And if we're saying Josh King potentially getting 70, 75, is it too much, not necessarily minutes risk, but would we prefer having more surety in minutes?
Yeah, if I could get to a 5 or a 5.5 mid spot, I wouldn't have Josh King. It's 4.5 if you need a 4.5 for me, because I'd want a 90-minute man. I think Visser could get close to 90, but I'm with you. He probably does come off early because he's not had a preseason. Like, Visser's probably only going to get 70 minutes, right? Because you got to be worrying about injuries. They've got the Champions League, don't forget, Newcastle. You can't just expect him to play 90. So it is a slight concern. But I feel like Visser, what we know from him is, with his season last year, and he'll want to hit the ground running at Newcastle, and how bad Wolves have been, I feel like I don't mind Visser getting 60, 70 minutes. And Barnes, like, in the wide forward spots, yeah, like Jacob Murphy could come on and take minutes off Barnes or Elanga. So yeah, you're not necessarily getting 90-minute men, but sometimes if the opposition's right on free hit, you can still chase the minutes and just hope it goes down to game state where it's 1-0 when it's tight, and we can't afford that luxury of hooking Elanga or Barnes for Jacob Murphy, because the game's too tight and we like what we're seeing and we're going to give him 90.
Yeah, I agree. And so good shouts in chat. Do keep firing them away because I'm trying to take on as many as I can on board. Cameron says bring Virgil down and get King up to Elliot. I think out of this 11, Gianni, if one player is going to be knocked down to make way for King, or potentially upgrading a Gakpo, or going along those lines, I think it is Virgil, who, don't get me wrong, would be great versus Burnley, but to make way for a better midfielder, I think it can make sense. If you were to get rid of Virgil, let's just say, I'll bring up a few options here, to a 4.5. I just feel like there's a lot of value in the premium defenders as of right now. The likes of Gabriel, Cucurella, even Van Dijk, and some of the cheaper options like Calafiori or Jurrien Timber, again, which they don't have the best of fixture this week. I feel like they do come in at good value. One I keep looking at, Gianni, who is 0.5 less than Van Dijk, is Fabian Schär. Maybe potentially on penalties. I don't know if you are on that wave, but as a 1 week punt, it's the type of move that I like, and it's only making 0.5, but definitely one of the options who has consistently been in one of my drafts. And one of the other options is potentially playing a 4 at the back. I've tied with the idea of playing 4-4-3, which is definitely interesting on a free hit, but I think this is a season where you'll see a lot more of that, with defenders getting a bit more points this season.
Mate, I tell you what, I think there's a guy at Fulham that costs 4.5 million that's better than King. He's just not a midfielder. I don't mind. See, now you've said it. 4 at the back. Just play Joachim Anderson.
That's
Centre
exactly
back
who
at
I was
Fulham
thinking.
gets DEFCON. We know he's getting 90. You never know out of nowhere he could pop up with a goal. Like, I think that's a much better shout than Josh King. 4.5 million to spend. You got a much, much higher floor there.
Yeah, so let's put in Joachim Anderson because he goes straight in. Again, we have too many Newcastle assets because I put in Fabian Schär. But I think that is quite nice, and it's so weird being on a free hit and not going all out in the attack. It's so unusual, and doing it in a single
Yeah.
game week even more
It's fine,
unusual.
mate. I play 4-4-2 every week. It's the way forward, I'm telling you.
You're going back to your roots. But yeah, so 3 Newcastle assets in now, Gianni. Who do we get rid of? Wissa, Barnes, Schär, Pope. Um,
Shah for me, and I don't think Shah will be on pens now if Visser is on the pitch. And I know Visser's not necessarily a penalty taker. We saw at Brentford and Burmo take them, but I just feel like as the number 9 that's just signed on big money, if you're on the pitch, and then because we know, look, Shah next in line for pens, sure, with the injuries that they've got, but you would just expect, I think, the number 9 to step up and take it.
Yeah, I know it was big money, Johnny, but do you think, it's inflated now? Is Wissa that big signing? Like, I think he's a great player. I'm not trying to knock him as a player. I just mean coming into that Newcastle team, they're after signing 2 strikers. Like, how do you see them lining up in the future come 10 game weeks' time? For me, Wissa, I think he's phenomenal. But do you think he's that big type of ego player who will come in, give me the ball, I'll take that pen?
He's always been the bit part. He's never been the main man, like um, because of Brian and Burmo. But we've not seen him in an environment where he's not had an elite player like an Mbermo next to him. This sounds nuts, but when he plays for the DRC, I watched him in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I watched the last African Cup of Nations, and the DRC had a really good tournament. I think they got out the groups, which is unheard of for them. Vista scored a couple of goals and looked really good. And I thought, okay, maybe, yeah, and I'm pretty sure he takes pens for him. Maybe when you're the maybe without Mbermo, without those shackles, he just steps into that role. And maybe we see that in Newcastle. Maybe we see more swagger than we expect to. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean with that.
Yeah, some great shouts in chat from Abdullah. He says Van Dijk has to stay. Chris Richards for Lacroix and Van Dijk for Schär. I think that's great. Now that you say
I
it,
like that.
yeah, that's good. Let
And
me
Chris
slot that in.
Richards, mate, he's still good at DEFCON. He's obviously not as good as Lacroix, but in any one given game, you never know, right? And I don't feel like this is going to be a DEFCON match for Palace at the back because Sunderland are barely going to have the ball. Like Sunderland aren't going to do much. The centre backs aren't going to be that rated. I wouldn't be surprised if Lacroix and Richards both get the same points.
Yeah, I agree. It could be quite
Or
tight. And
Gahey, by the way, also 4.5 million.
yeah, do you think Gay starts?
Yeah, he's a true pro. He's an absolute true pro, and I'd be very surprised. No, he definitely starts. Like he's not the kind of kid to throw his, or he's not a kid to throw his toys out the pram. It's just not going to happen. And he knows he can sign a agreement with someone in January, and it'll be at Liverpool or Real Madrid next year. So he's just got to wait in line and be professional and show the club's interested in him that he is a proper professional. But all those around him that I've heard speak about him say he is the ultimate pro, and he will just get on with it, and he'll go and deliver just like he did in game week 3, right? Game week 3, Emi Martinez wasn't put in the Villa squad because he was going to. Everyone knew at Villa he was likely to leave. He didn't end up leaving, but Mark Gay was like, no, I'm not only going to play versus Villa, I'm going to captain the team. I'm going to score a banger, and I'm just going to be the ultimate pro. But I think he's gone up to 4.6, so that's annoying.
Yeah, Rajiv is not happy in chat. He says, why not Pedro instead of Wissa? The one in good form. Now, Jan, you love that one. What do you make of it? Do you think in a singular game week, not going for one of the highest owned players in the game, is it even risky, or how do you feel about that?
You've got Salah and Haaland, like they're not the highest owned, but they're from the in terms of captaincy and stuff, a lot will be going at those two players. So maybe EO, they will be the highest owned. João Pedro won't be captained by many away at Brentford. He's got a long flight back from Brazil. I'd put João Pedro. It'd be very close to my 11, but I'd probably be waiting on Newcastle journalists and predictors. If everyone attached to Newcastle in terms of media are telling you this is going to start, I think you can punt against the field. João Pedro goes to Brentford. They've had one home game this season so far. They beat Villa convincingly 3-0. Maybe Brentford are all right at home. So look, this is if you think this is going to start, I'd go there. I'd chase the upside. And the differential nature of it. Free hits have to have a little bit of fun, and that's your fun pick.
I agree. Again, at St James Park could be any scoreline.
Yeah.
Unlikely to be, 0-0. Never in my eyes. So I feel like you're targeting the right sort of fixtures, going with Sunderland at home, Burnley away, Wolves at home. And to be honest, again, in comparison to my other team, I think it will be at least 20 points, which is enough for me to click the button. But yeah, we've built a very strong team here, lads. Let us know in chat what you think of it and who is missing. I think it's great to do it on stream, Gianni. I don't know how you felt about it, but it's been enjoyable so far.
Locked in with a week to go. It looks good, man. Like, how many of these players are you unsure about?
4.
Yeah.
I would say Van Dijk, Richards, Minoz, Gakpo, Salah, Haaland, Mateta. You know, I'd be quite sure I'd be starting with, if not Richards, maybe Lacroix, or for example, if not Gakpo, maybe Verts. But other than that, it's going to take a small bit more thinking on how I'm feeling about Wissa, and I think, maybe wait for more information close to the deadline. We usually get some sort of news. Barnes, I'm not sure of. Again, I think if he starts, phenomenal option. But even if he does start, I think he's capped minutes wise.
Well, Gordon's suspended, so the start's pretty set.
Exactly, yeah, right? Gordon is, but I don't know. I feel like with Murphy, I know he doesn't play on the same side, but just looming around, I feel like they could potentially get people on. Vissa as well, can he play on the wing, Gianni? Again, Brentford set up in a way where they kind of played with.
A few in the chat have said Semenyo. He's obviously been very shot heavy. Had a big miss the other day for Ghana, I saw.
Sorry, guys. We just seem to be dropping a few frames. Hopefully we get Gianni back in a second. Probably is on my end. Give me 1 second.
Go on the matchups like Newcastle, like Fulham, that have the very obvious Palace clear fixture.
Sorry, Gianni. My internet kind of went there. But we got the last bit of what he said. Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry for the lag, lads. Apologies. But yeah, it's going to be a fun week, Gianni, and with a week to go, I feel like there still is a good bit of tinkering to have. So I wanted to do this, Gianni, because Yelena, our graphic designer, put together a draft that I sent her, and I sent her this 2 days ago. Again, I just threw it together, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this live on stream was because I wasn't happy with that team. But I want to show you how close this team actually was to the original one that I had before we made this. So behind it, I have the team, and again, a few players we discussed. This was made a while ago, so that's why the likes of Asar is there, and it was before Isaac signed, I'm fairly sure. That's why Ekatike is there, Alanga's there. This is a different variation I feel like you could go with if you weren't going with Haaland. Again, you wouldn't have Sar. It is a bit more aggressive going for the likes of Averts and Ekatike. What do you make of that, Gianni? Again, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd steer away from Arsenal defence. I know they're great, but they're expensive, and I feel like Forest could pop up with a goal. I'd be swerving Ekatike. And look, Semenyo I do like. Whilst I can't predict that football match, Bournemouth and Brighton is a fixture, I'd probably, at the back of my mind, be thinking I should swerve that. I just can't get away from the fact that Semenyo started the season very well in terms of eye test. So, yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, no Haaland's too big a call for me. I would be definitely putting Haaland versus Man United in my free hit team. And then that affects the entire draft, right? Salah only versus Salah and Haaland really does affect all those other mid-price players you can have, because a load of those mid-price need to go to budget price if you're swapping an Ekatike to a Haaland.
I agree. Maybe one again. I want to bring this back up, Gianni. Victor Gyökeres with Forest at home. Does he make...
They've not looked the best defensively. We know. We've both got double Forest defence, and it's killing us every week.
Exactly, and it's going to be a week where I don't have Forest defense. Is that an opportunity for me? Like, if it was Saka, he'd be in the team, like we spoke about last week.
Mm, I know what you mean. I don't know. There's something off about Arsenal in terms of so far this season, they just look a little bit lackluster in attack. Like they've only Sunderland have lower open play XG than Arsenal this season. And I know they've not had the best fixtures and they've created a lot of set piece XG, but concerns me a little bit for Arsenal. Concerns me a little bit for sure. I think I would swerve them in that fixture. Again, I don't like Arsenal Forest as a matchup per se. It's a bit like Bournemouth Brighton. It's just one I look at and go, well, that's if there was a upset, if Forest went and got a result and it was even a 1-1 draw, would you be surprised? Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think it'll be a tight enough game, unless Arsenal do surprise us, and that's what we're probably missing for them to be on that next level where they smash some of these teams. We see a different side to Arsenal where they go and net at least two or three. We know they can do it, but again, I'll be interested to see this season because how good defensively they've been. Someone talking in chat about Reinders again, game week one's favorite player hasn't quite showed it since game week one in terms of how good he was. I mean, he couldn't have been any better. And just looking at this draft, Gianni, potentially make 0.9, bringing Barnes down to Reinders. Reinders against United, do you like it at all?
Only if you're not going Haaland. I don't think you need the Man City double up. But if you did go no Haaland, you go, oh, I do need some Man City. And Reinders is the next best thing, but he still has a big quality gap there. Haaland's had more XG, by the way, than Arsenal this season. Haaland's had more XG than like over half the Premier League teams, I think. That would really worry me going without Haaland. Look, I'm considering bringing Haaland into my actual team. And I can do that for Ollie Watkins. The problem with Watkins is he's got Sunderland next week. I don't really want to sell before Sunderland, but I feel like if you can get to Haaland this week on free hit, on wildcard, you have to do it. You just have to.
Yeah, I agree. And he's in my own team, thankfully enough. For
Yeah.
anyone that's wondering, again, I don't think we discussed my Game Week 3 team. Currently, on a green arrow, got 60 points. 1.7 million currently, which I'm quite happy with early days. It can
Good
be
rank, mate.
Yeah, quite good so far. And on free hit, and I think I've set myself up nicely. So I'm hoping in this block of fixtures from now until 8. I see 4 consecutive greens. Obviously, that everyone's going to say that, but I think I've set myself up well. I'd be surprised if I didn't. Again, famous last words, but let's see. And I think going into free hit 4 is quite strong. Considering I have no Palace in my own team, and I can bring in Salah for what is the best game week. Lastly, Gianni, I feel like we need to discuss triple captain for non-free hitters. Is it on the cards with Burnley away, and is it better to keep for Haaland at home versus Burnley?
Do you know, before game week 19, when we have to use triple captain, Salah's only going to get one newly promoted team, I think, at home. No, yes. I can't remember who it is, but he's at AFCON for one of them. I think it was Leeds. And the other one, I think he's got one newly promoted team at home. So pretty much, if you think you're going to be triple captain in Mo Salah, it's going to be tricky to have a newly promoted team at home. There might be 1 week to do it. But Burnley away is obviously great. I do think, though, we're going to get lots of opportunity for big matchups. And Erling Haaland plays all 3 newly promoted teams before game week 19. I'm likely to go for a home fixture against a newly promoted team for Salah or Haaland. And that's not this week. Game week 6, Haaland plays Burnley at home, for example. That interests me more, I think. Therefore, because it's away and Burnley have won their home game so far, like they beat Sunderland game week 2, I think I would call it for now.
I agree. I want to save it for that Burnley game for Haaland. I agree. Like I just think, if I can wait until a home fixture, why not? And also like why not? If there was a better fixture for a nice asset with a good fixture versus a bottom 3 team at home, I'd also prefer to save it than a Burnley away. And that's just me personally. So yeah, I'm in agreement.
Like you and I put a lot of weight on home, and maybe wrongly so, but we always do like going home for fixture.
Yeah, it's
don't we?
interesting. I feel like
For
that's kind of
captaincy
outdated,
anyway.
Gianni, isn't it? Like, there's not much discussion about that, or am I wrong about that? But like back in the day, I swear it was, oh yeah, away versus, for example, Everton. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it would make a difference.
I know. Like I saw someone put stats in, I think last season, being like the away versus home for whatever player was being discussed, to say it was Mo Salah, was like wasn't what you thought it'd be. His away form was actually marginally better, and it was like, oh, I always bang on about home advantage, and actually, it's not a thing. Like, look, some seasons it is a thing. With some players, it's a thing. But as a rule of thumb, it's not a given that every player is better and every team is better home and away. Like Crystal Palace away, really good. They went to Villa Park and they just played slightly differently when they're away. And I'm guessing they're clean sheets, so equally as good away, if not better, than home since Glasner's taken over. Again, I've not looked at that. Maybe someone in the chat can tell us, but yeah, it's not a given.
Yeah, so let's wrap it up there, Jenny. I'm quite happy with that team. It's going to be interesting to see where my team goes from here. Again, I'll have a video out on my own channel, and there's plenty of content on Gianni's channel at Gianni Batici. So, lastly, Gianni, let's talk about your own team because I'm interested. You were
Yeah,
saying potentially bringing in Haaland. What do you plan on doing?
I'm bringing in Harvey Elliott for Cunha to get me enough money to get to Haaland. I just don't know if I do the Haaland move this week, but I'm punting Harvey Elliott in just because I think he's going to be great at 5.4, and I need to spend 5.5 or lower to allow myself the money for Watkins to Haaland. I just don't think I'll make Watkins to Haaland till game week 6, or I might even go Haaland, Giyu to Haaland, which is possible if I go to Harvey Elliott. So yeah, my Cunha terrible pick is going down to someone very cheap, and I think it's going to be Harvey Elliott, which will give me Harvey Elliott, Dewsbury Hall, and Reinders, like 3-5-ish defenders. Which could be loads of fun. But yeah, mate, thank you for plugging my channel. I mean, you'll do a team selection, no doubt. So we'll see your locked free hit later in the week. So look, go check out FPL Chai. If you want to see videos on my channel, I'm going to be dropping one tomorrow morning about the best new signings. I'll speak about Harvey Elliott in more detail, but I'm also going to put together a wildcard draft this week and show my team. But also, if you're not already subscribed to Fantasy Football Scout, they're dropping daily content. So hit the like button on this video if you fancy, but also subscribe to the channel. They're so close to 100K.
Yeah, absolutely. Get us there, lads. And as usual, we will see you in the next.
See you guys.